In early 2003, a team of German archaeologists working in Iraq stumbled across one of the most significant discoveries of modern times. Deep beneath the desert sands, they discovered what they believed to be the long-lost tomb of the mythical king Gilgamesh, the protagonist of the oldest story human beings ever wrote, the Epic of Gilgamesh. For centuries, historians had been divided over whether Gilgamesh actually existed, since, in the epic, he is described as a 17-foot-tall giant, a crossbreed between a normal human and a Mesopotamian goddess. For this reason, it was generally accepted that the story of Gilgamesh was simply a figment of myth. That was until Jörg Fassbinder and his team of archaeologists, using modern technology to look deep into the ground, discovered an entire ancient city beneath the desert, astonishingly laid out just as the city of Uruk, over which Gilgamesh had purportedly reigned, was described in the epic. There were houses and gardens and fields alongside an incredibly sophisticated system of canals, leading archaeologists to describe the site as Venice in the desert. More importantly, on the outskirts of the ancient city was what appeared to be a burial site, which archaeologists believed to be the tomb of the ancient king. As Fassbinder put it, "I don't want to say definitely it was the grave of King Gilgamesh, but it looks very similar to that described in the epic." What was Fassbinder trying to tell us? If the grave of Gilgamesh was similar to that described in the epic, does that mean that Fassbinder and his team had discovered a tomb with the body of a 17-foot-tall giant? It was, quite simply, a mind-blowing find, a long-lost missing piece of the origins of human history. Surely, archaeologists believed this would change everything, revealing to us secrets we never even knew we lost. But then, the unthinkable happened. Mere weeks after the tomb of Gilgamesh was discovered, the United States invaded Iraq, forcing Fassbinder and his team to abandon their work and flee the country. And the mystery was left unsolved. Or was it? In 1849, an English historian and archaeologist by the name of Austen Henry Layard made a history-changing discovery in the ruins of the library of 7th century BCE Assyrian king Ashur-bani-pal in northern Iraq, believed to be one of the oldest libraries in human history. There, he uncovered an ancient clay tablet many thousands of years old, covered in a curious script which he could not read. Who had written this script? Layard wondered. And what did it say? Incredible as the discovery was, it was only the start. Through the early 1850s, more than 15,000 fragments of similar tablets covered in the same mysterious writing were found at the site. These tablets were sent back to the British Museum, where, for decades, scholars worked at trying to decipher them, using other ancient tablets written in languages they could understand to work backwards and attempt translation. The breakthrough finally came in the 1870s, thanks to a man named George Smith. Born in 1840, Smith left school at 14 and started working as an engraver of banknotes. Though uneducated, he became enamored with news reports emerging from Iraq of strange, indecipherable artifacts older than any on record being found. Following his curiosity, Smith began to visit the British Museum during his lunch hours and spare time to study its holdings, slowly self-teaching himself ancient languages and becoming comfortable with ancient written scripts. By 1866, museum staff finally noticed a strange young man hanging about their archives, so they offered him a job. If he wanted to be a translator, they told him, he could start with the 15,000 fragments found by Austen Henry Layard. For years, Smith worked, until, eventually, the words written on the tablets began to reveal themselves. When they did, Smith was shocked to find the foundation of an unbelievable story. There on the tablets was a record of an ancient deluge, a flood that wiped out humanity save for one man and his family. When Smith presented his findings to the Society of Biblical Archaeology in 1872, at a presentation that even the British Prime Minister attended, it sent shockwaves across Europe and the world as many scholars and theologians proclaimed that this ancient flood story confirmed the truth of the story of Noah in the Bible. In 1875, Smith went further, publishing full translations of everything he had discovered. Though he did not know it at the time, he had begun to translate the oldest story ever written down, a legendary tale that would become known simply as the Epic of Gilgamesh. Tragically, Smith died suddenly in 1876 at only 36 years old. But this was not the end of what he had started. For decades, generations, even to this very day, scholars have continued Smith's work, translating more and more tablets, slowly revealing the full story of the epic. And in fact, it goes far beyond a great flood. In its entirety, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells the fantastic tale of the ancient Mesopotamian king named Gilgamesh, who ruled the area of present-day Iraq many thousands of years in the past. It describes his beginnings as a tyrant and how the gods sought to teach him a lesson by creating a rival named Enkidu. After the two men wrestle to a stalemate, neither better than the other, they become great friends and set off on a series of adventures described in detail within the epic. When Enkidu dies, a distraught Gilgamesh spends the rest of his life searching for the secrets of eternal life, a series of additional adventures again narrated by the epic. It is an unbelievable piece of written work, one which scholars agree greatly influenced the epic literary genre moving forward through history, including famous works like the Iliad and Homer's Odyssey. But what truly drew people to the story in modern times, as its translation was slowly revealed, was its description of Gilgamesh himself, the astounding characteristics of the great king. He was said to have been the child of a human man and a goddess, making him 1/3 human and 2/3 divine. As such, he had a massive physical stature, standing 17 feet tall, and was blessed with superhuman strength and endurance, as well as unusual intelligence. In fact, the story describes Gilgamesh as unsurpassed in all things. But it was more than that. Within the story was a passage about Gilgamesh, which read, "He explored everywhere the seats of power. He knew the totality of wisdom about all things." Throughout history, the search for wisdom has been something that has driven human beings forward. According to the epic, Gilgamesh had reached the end of the maze, obtaining the furthest reaches of wisdom about anything and everything. Taken together, it was these characteristics of Gilgamesh which made the discovery of his tomb in 2003 so potentially earth-shattering. Simply, if archaeologists were able to uncover his tomb and look inside, imagine what hidden secrets they might find. Was Gilgamesh really a giant? His tomb the home of a 17-foot-tall skeleton? Further though, if the tomb of Gilgamesh was opened, what records of his totality of wisdom about all things might be buried with him? What knowledge obtained while he was looking for the secrets of eternal life? Of course, these are exactly the type of secrets that people around the world would do pretty much anything to get their hands on. For the past 20 years, scholars, historians, and ordinary people have all debated the same question. Why did the United States invade Iraq? The country was not involved in the 9/11 attacks, and the official government line at the time that Iraq and its leader Saddam Hussein were hiding weapons of mass destruction has since shown itself to have been an outright lie. Some have suggested that the U.S. simply wanted control of Iraq's oil, while others even believe that the U.S. President George W. Bush simply wanted to finish what his daddy, President George H.W. Bush, had started in the early 90s during the first war with Iraq. Is it possible that there was another reason, though? Was it perhaps not a coincidence that the invasion was launched almost immediately after the tomb of Gilgamesh and all of its potential secrets had been found? Consider, as the U.S. military invaded the country, they immediately set up an encampment around the Gilgamesh site. As they did, they kicked out scientists and sent home media members who had been sent to cover the findings, including important figures from ABC News and the BBC. From the headlines of global news, the story instantly disappeared. Except, as the weeks and months passed, strange accounts began to emerge from the area. Witnesses